welcome to Insights Unboxed 2025. Iran, CEO of Fuel Cycle here at our LA offices, and I want to thank everyone for being here. Today, we're going to make it a little bit different. It's just not going to be about unveiling what's next in our platform. We wanted to expand it a little bit and talk about what's next to the entire market research discipline. And for too long, research has been treated as a tactical execution arm, projects that takes sometimes weeks, data that is very siloed, but also research shows that among Fortune 1000 companies, up to 60% of insights go unused, not because lack of value, but because they arrive just too late. Meanwhile, generative AI, we all hear about it nonstop, maybe a little bit too much, but generative AI is reshaping how every business function operates. It's rewriting the boundaries of what's possible, moving from human-led tasks to human-supervised systems. So you'll see legal teams rely on tools like Harvey and LowPro for contract analysis and compliances, sales teams, Gong, Salesforce agents for live pipeline intelligence, and product teams even here in Fuel Cycle design and iterate faster than ever with Figma AI. And the list is on. So every function is evolving from doing the work to directing the work. Market research obviously is next, and the moment is now. And companies that are winning today are those that can see around corners, converting data into decisions on time, built on trust, governance, and speed. And that's exactly what the Autonomous Insights is all about, elevating research teams from operational responders into strategic executives, professionals who supervise intelligence systems, define the governing logic, and direct the entire discovery process with intent and precision. And so not just faster research, but better research. Insights that don't wait for a brief, they anticipate one. Insights that don't just support decisions, they lead them. In the next hour, you're going to see Ken Riley taking us through a live demo showing a single business question, becoming a full management-ready insights package automatically. Polly will have a fireside chat, which is really cool, about stories of transformation. And Rick will wrap it up with our 2026 roadmap. And so let's dive in and welcome to Insights Unboxed.
What a great intro, Aaron. That's awesome. Maybe while we're transitioning, what's been your favorite use case for generative AI that you've seen deployed at Fuel Cycle that isn't insights related?
It's funny because, we think about like complex heavy lifting, like the server design and programmer, the programming aspect of, but like for me, and by the way, backed with data here in our Rex team is that things like, the power representation agent that brings so much happiness to our colleagues here, but also to our clients. So it's not always the heavy lifting, heavy algorithms. Sometimes it's the easy things that makes our life much easier, that kind of like much more appealing.
Yeah, that I think it's one of those things where it's maybe not like the sexiest thing, but it saves a lot of time and does a lot of the heavy lifting. And maybe as an intro, while Ken's getting set up here, and while we introduce the concept of autonomous insights, I'll share a very practical example about how autonomous insights is affecting our business and how it's has the potential to impact others as well. I had a call with a customer on Thursday afternoon. We needed to actually run like a quick usage and awareness survey, just to kind of gauge incidents and you can get some information around a very particular audience that they're interested in. And to be honest, I'm a very, very busy person. And so what I actually did is I used all of Fuel Cycle's tools to generate, then edit the survey. I had an agent program the survey for me. Our team fielded the survey and collected data. And then I went into our platform and actually just ran a few crosstabs and had AI summarize the results for me. And so something that, my personal experience with this, even in the past few days, is that we've been able to compress things that are hours long and laborious tasks into just moments. And so I could actually concentrate on feeding back information to our team and to our customer with minimal effort on my part by taking away a lot of the complexity of actually doing research. And when we look across the landscape of AI solutions and the solutions that we've rolled out to our customers so far, we see really dramatic impact, both in time saved, in the amount of effort it takes to run research, but most of all around being able to look around corners and to find information that we didn't know, because there's more time to be strategic and to be thinking about the business. And so when we started building autonomous insights, we started with a really, really big ambition, not to just be a single agent or a single capability, but to actually be able to conduct an entire research lifecycle autonomously. And where we've ended up, and what you're going to see today as Ken walks through this demo, is we have an end-to-end workflow, right? Where everything kind of goes from beginning to end, from business question all the way down through analysis. And you're able to use that or do that entirely with AI agents that we built. In addition to that, we have an incredible agent exchange where individual agents can be used to do some very specific tasks. So when you just need to generate a report, or you just need to run, analysis on unstructured data, you're able to do that using the Fuel Cycle platform. And what we're hoping to kind of share with you today is part of the ambition around what we're trying to achieve, showcase things that are actually real, but then paint a picture for you around where we're going and then the potential impact for autonomous insights. And then, of course, Polly and one of our customers are going to be able to talk through the actual impact that's having on a business and how it differs from a lot of the a lot of the AI solutions that are out there, including your generic kind of chatbots that we use every day. And so to start showcasing this, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Ken, who is going to give us a live demo. And it is all live, right? It's more fun when things are on stage. It's like watching a play. You never know if something's going to go wrong. I don't think it will, but it makes it a lot more exciting. So no videos, no recordings. This is a show don't tell type thing, and we're looking forward to this, Ken.
That's right. That's right. Thank you very much, Rick, and thanks all for your time today. So I want to show a quick slide before we get into the demo. I really just I want to place everybody into the minds of kind of how we develop our agents at Fuel Cycle, a little bit about our development philosophy. The way we think about developing these AI solutions is very much aligned with the research lifecycle as it exists today. And we illustrate that on this slide, this very clear end-to-end research flow that begins with a stakeholder need or just a general kind of signal from the market that's demanding some form of research to occur. And practically, every research project generally follows this very well-established pattern. And this speaks to the very tight alignment that we at Fuel Cycle take to our agent design. Team of researchers here making the product. It is made by researchers for researchers from all skill levels, novice to advanced, and that's kind of how we think about this very tight alignment. And so workflow like this has been pinned to our desks for the past year or two. We talk about it all the time, and when we think about what our agents need to do well, this is all rooted in the end-to-end flow. Okay, and so this is what I'm going to spend most of my time on. We just recently achieved a really critical milestone here, heading into Q4 on getting this end-to-end flow in our platform. But as Rick mentioned, we also have different methods of accessibility here. Again, this is the practical flow. Reality is far messier. A project came up last minute, a quick stakeholder follow-up. You need to kind of drop into one of these particular agents. So the way in which we design this is also flexible from an accessibility perspective. If you are not doing a full project and you just need to use or leverage one of these agents, you have that ability to do so with our agent exchange. And a fun fact, actually, to our own surprise, we're actually seeing our customers use the agent exchange, 2 to 3 times more frequently than the workflow, which is surprising to us, but very, very humbling, to have many different methods for our customers to get value from AI. Okay, so I'll quickly show the agent exchange closer to the end, but I'll go ahead and take this screen share, Victoria. We can jump right in. Right. Cool. All right. So again, I'm going to take you all through end-to-end workflow here. We're going to be working through the context of a survey. And now, if you recall, in that survey, you're starting with a research objective, a business objective, and we did break up the act of designing, programming. We do make those available separately in the agent exchange, but in the workflow here, we designed it such that it's much more kind of unified in the orchestration. So just to kind of preface that, and that's kind of how we design for the unified experience in an end-to-end flow. And so what you see here again is just kind of a launching point to start the design process. I'll go ahead and just fire this off. I actually made two just to demonstrate how we build this. You see a very thorough set of research objectives here. Primary, secondary, a couple key areas to explore. So I'm going to fire that off. And then I'm gonna have another tab open here that's a little bit simpler. I'm whether I'm new or I'm just being lazy and I just kind of want to kick things off. I'm gonna also just submit much lower effort one about pumpkin flavoring, because 'tis the season, so why not? And a fun fact: this is our first chat style interface, and so just to speak to it a little bit while I just kind of accelerate this. This is our first chat style interface, and I think by now a lot of people are very used to a ChatGPT or a Google Gemini. These solutions are amazing as general purpose tools, but this is not your generic chat app. We do not make a general purpose AI solution that's going to tell you about the weather, going to give you relationship advice or anything of that nature. We really tailor this. I analogize it to the team as much more of this kind of bowling with the bumpers up experience. Tailored to the researcher. As you see, we kind of take your initial objective, we help you kind of build it out a little bit. We give you a few different things that you can possibly explore. You see here, we kind of try to guide you on to the next step. If there's any changes or if there's any edits that you want to make, or you can go ahead and fire off just, let's go. Let's get into the next step. And so in this example here, we've went from a business objective that was one line, and we've got a full, roughly 20 question survey here. This is fully programmed, and in the other scenario, I just kind of laid out. It's a very similar pattern that you see in the more thorough case. Building out the same thing. And if you want to ask it about the price of Bitcoin, you won't get necessarily, you won't get a response to that. But that's that kind of idea of keeping you on the straight and narrow in this path. These chat interfaces are great at a lot of things. But for our use case, we want to build out like a tooling set that only applies to building in this first example here, building out different research methodologies and having them kind of recommended to you. Okay. And so, again, you go off topic, or, if you are trying to do something that it's not capable of doing, it'll just let you know. And you can go ahead, you can talk to it, you can ask it to add a question, remove a question. And once you're done though, it is quite literally just a click of a button, and off that survey is dropped, fully programmed into our native survey platform. This was a first kind of, and I mentioned the first chat style interface, but this is kind of our first pass on a survey builder between design and program. Released it, just about a month ago, and we are completely overhauling this in Q4. You'll see much more targeted methodology recommendations, more thorough designs, different advanced logic involved in the programming. And for our team and internally and customers early on here, we're seeing it mainly used in two ways. So, as you saw on the chat interface, it's that brainstorming partner. You're trying to expand or just understand which kind of avenues to explore. And number two, that first round of programming. So, by our internal estimates, this is cutting out in the easy cases, 80 to 90%. In the more complex, in kind of the 50 to 60% range, just off the top. super valuable. And just to get the time back and, to have every single question just dropped in here, as you see, populated with the answer options, all of that is done away with, ready to go. Really, really great impact that we're seeing early on. And, we're definitely going to keep going here. Okay. So that's great. That's a little bit, on the design and the program side. Let's advance. Let's just kind of assume we launched our study. I'm here in our newly designed activity overview page. We just, we have a quick snapshot. How many responses do we have? Where are we at with fielding? Nice clean response timeline, all of the different reports that we have access to here, just to kind of see what's going on, and basically, the next step, once you've finished collecting the responses, you've seen all the responses in most scenarios, depending on your audience, you really need to ensure your data is of high quality, right? Response quality has always been a hot topic in the industry, especially with the advent of AI agents roaming the web. We are seeing fraudulent actors get more creative and more sophisticated. This is where our data quality analyst comes in. So, this is Fuel Cycle's approach to playing defense. Defense against this surge of AI bots. And we think our defensive position is quite strong. And so AI to the rescue to fight against AI. I'm sure there's a plot to a movie somewhere in there, but back to the topic. Traditionally, an extremely tedious exercise, like searching for needles in a haystack. When you are going through all of your survey data, every question, you're looking at everything. We are systematically running this check for things like IP duplication, speeding, grid responses, suspicious regions, VPN detections. We have over 5 different open-end checks right now, leveraging AI to check a number of different things there. This thing is no joke. And you might be wondering, where is it? You see the flags. We do have this, and the answer is yes. It is that simple. It is one button. So it is one button. You're getting in the first version here about 12 checks done on every single response. No matter how many hundreds or thousands you've collected, we are raising the high watermark on quality with one click of a button. We'll play referee. We'll flag whatever we find. You can play judge and make that final decision. So I think all of the research tasks that I used to do, checking for data quality is the one I dreaded the most, and I will not miss it. I'll say that much. So. I'd say just from an impact perspective, our customers are reporting somewhere between 70%, 80% effort reduction on their data cleaning. And so, whether you're in the middle of fielding, you just closed your project, 70% time back to get right into the analysis. That's a really big deal. And so, yeah, really, really easy interface that we've designed here. You can see the responses. We're going to kind of point you to where the flags were raised. So this was, as you see in question 10, really easy to just kind of flip through your responses as you're working your way through your check. Yeah, made it really easy. So I think, for our current customers, please keep the feedback coming. We've designed a lot of these checks in kind of co-creation with an early set. This will be an evergreen thing. This is how we play defense. This is not a problem that's going to go away. And we're going to keep building these out and adding more checks over time. So thank you all who did give some feedback early on. Please do keep it coming. Okay, great. So we built our survey. We have high quality data. We are on to the fun part. That's analysis. So, candidly, I would say prior to this new AI wave, Fuel Cycle was relatively underinvested in analytics. I think we had some solid methods of analysis. it was never something we were necessarily known for. I don't know, maybe Rick might yell at me after the call for that. But I think with the advent of AI, I think strategically we realized we had to kind of flip the truth of that. It had to be best in class. We had to own it, and we could not rely on anyone else to provide it for us. And so we manifest this in a few different ways, which I'll show here. In the context of a qualitative report that we have here. So in our end-to-end flow, this applies to your survey open-end questions. And so, again, as we all know, open-end's both the most impactful and most laborious efforts to give you the why, extremely important. And so at Fuel Cycle, we've been leaning into this truth for years, the value of qual. We call it qual at scale. I think maybe perhaps Victoria could link a few of the blog posts that we've done in the show notes. But we know your open ends are where the details are. And so we have that here in our qualitative report. This is in two ways. As you see right here, this is our summary. This is actually the first AI feature we released over 2 years ago now. We've invested quite a lot into this to really bring the qual at scale theme to life. A lot of generic solutions like a ChatGPT will give you generic themes. A lot of our customers really challenged us to go a step further and quantify that theme. What is the weight behind what you're saying? It's really easy to say kind of a generic theme. Who's saying it, how often, and can I get some quotes behind that? So that's really what we aim to do with our summary view here. So this, again, one click, you have your summary, themes, and a set of tags made for you. Really, really, really useful to the team, I'd say. And back in our second view here, this is our responses view. And so you see I've made a few tags here before for the demo. But number two is kind of here in our responses, for those who traditionally would call this in the industry open-end coding, open-end code frames. Again, trying to quantify your open-end, your qualitative research. And so we have solution this in the form of these, what we call tag categories. And so, very simply, we systematically run through every response and we will apply, we'll even help you make, the code frames if you don't exactly know where you're coming from or what you're trying to do per se. So we have these two types of tag categories that will help you get to that successful outcome. And the general sense is, like, for example, you're doing something like a sentiment analysis. You say, hey, I'm over here and I just want to I want to identify sentiment on, I think this is about watch usage. So we can say something like positive, neutral, and negative. And so that'll, you'll go and hit apply, and that goes off to the races. And so again, where we spoke at the top about chat interfaces and generic chat apps, this is us really embedding agents into a very kind of tailored, polished interface, right? This is not a chat. This is, you're being very explicit with, your objective. So that is the closest thing that we're going to expose. But you see, the way that we expose a prompt is incredibly narrowly and precise to what you are trying to achieve, right? So you're saying, hey, this is my objective, this is my prompt, and then a little bit around the tags that you want to make. You hit apply, and off AI goes. So this is on 600 comments. So we could maybe drop back here towards the end, but off it goes, 600 comments. And what you see is it kind of comes out on the other side here as an example. So we made it really easy to apply and to really, again, quantify these things that were just really tedious. And so, where our customers using it today, we're seeing a lot of, feedback in the examples of just, quick stakeholder follow-ups. They want to kind of double click on something that was kind of delivered in a report, and they want to know more. And so just really quickly kind of double click, dig deeper. And of course, anything that's related to open-end code framing or anything of that nature is essentially done. So huge effort reduction by the team, and yeah, really valuable stuff that we've gotten a lot of great feedback on over the past year. So that's the qualitative side. That's one dimension, and the next one that I want to talk about is the crosstab. Now, this one has been a long time in the making, long time asked from customers. And, I think to give a little bit of context, the crosstab represents perhaps the most significant foundational solution in our analytical tech stack. And the reason I think this really speaks to one of our primary design philosophies here at Fuel Cycle as it relates to developing AI solutions, which is AI does no math. So when I say AI does no math, we mean that there can be zero hallucination, zero margin for error on any calculation. If any of the calculations are wrong, you jeopardize not only the quality of the study, you jeopardize trust in the underlying system. And it feels like we can't have that. So you not only must be able to trust, but you also must be able to see. And so, the interface is definitely very polished to see. And that's kind of, saying our AI is not doing any math, when we're doing any type of quantitative analysis. Our AI is interpreting the math being handed to it, and we're incredibly thoughtful with how much, we're exposing to get a really polished analysis out of it. And that's a very important distinction to make, and that is the reason I would say you should never rely on a generic chat interface like ChatGPT to analyze your quantitative data, particularly with this level of rigor. So all that to say, I think these crosstab rails represent the most reliable and useful source of truth for analytics to be applied to AI. And the way that we've solution for this, as you see, should be a very familiar drag and drop style kind of interface, whether you're using any of your survey questions or whether you're using any of your progressive profiling points in the platform. Made it really easy for you to work with that. We have our first investment in AI analysis as it relates to crosstab, which we are kind of colloquially calling the stub level summary. And so we call these rows here in the purple, we call them the stubs. These are your questions in the survey in a traditional way of organizing your data here in a market research setting. And so as you see, we kind of go across each stub. We're looking across kind of horizontally on all of the banners that you've added to this crosstab. And we're just kind of surfacing up all of the useful information. So like, where are the biggest differences? What's statistically significant or not? What do I need to know? And frankly, it's a type of analysis that, we at Fuel Cycle are still just kind of wrapping our heads around in that it's kind of an emerging property with AI. Because if you had a 30 question survey, you have roughly 15, 20 demographic points, you have too much data to work through. Like you just can't do that fast, and you can't do it as thoroughly as you can now with AI. So we have a ton left to run here. This is ultimately, as you see here, this is really helping our research team just sift through the findings. What do I need to know so that I can take it, pull it down, and put it into kind of a final deliverable. And so Yeah, really proud of what we've achieved because, this unlock for future use cases is ultimately, where we're going. And so as long as we all can really trust the underlying data, this unlocks analysis in any which way you could fancy to imagine. So a lot more to come. And yeah, really proud of what we made here so far. I want to be mindful of time. So I'm on my last kind of stage of the insights journey here. So we worked our way from design to build to data quality, a little bit of qualitative analysis, some cross-tab analysis here, onto the last stage. This is our presentation. Now, when we talk about the end-to-end flow, of course, you talk about, your design. On this other end, you are creating this, beautiful finished product that is a presentation or a deliverable that you are sharing back to your business. Now, for better or worse, the medium of this delivery method is a PowerPoint. And, so what does it take to make really great presentations? It is this balance of art and science. This is not some data dump, literal recreation of slides or, throwing paint at a wall, see what sticks. Research generates, as AI has generated here, this thick, uncut marble slab of raw data, and we chisel it into insights. It requires an understanding of the surface and the material, the right methodology, the right tools, the right type of analysis. You have to kind of reveal the form of the story, like what is valuable inside of this information, but most importantly, I would say the patron's vision must be honored. And when I say that, I would say it has to be the way that your company expects it and wants it. I jokingly say, Michelangelo was paid by the Florence Cathedral to make David, and they would have been very upset if he just, sculpted a selfie of himself eating some focaccia bread. It wouldn't have gone well. I don't reckon to imagine. And so therein to us lies the challenge and the opportunity, this cross of art and science and honoring the patron's vision, while being a very data intensive presentation builder in this new AI native, capability. Each customer has their own template they want to use. Each customer has their own colors and their own preferences on how to analyze, present between the chart type, the formatting, the headline, the summary, the way that they subgroup it, the size of the text, the coloring. It's no joke. And that is kind of the vision we strive towards. And that is kind of our first, manifestation here. I'm in the Agent Exchange. This is where we've released our first version of the Presentation Designer. I've gone ahead and just made it myself here and just kind of worked through. There's a kind of two-step build process. But generally, what's available today is as you see, you upload your research data, and we're going to group and build your presentation with AI. And you can, with as much guidance from you or as little. And, as you see, we're going to make it in a very kind of, aligned way to how you analyze it and how you kind of present it. Now, this is, as you see, this is economic impact survey. And, as you see, we're kind of building out these different slide types that we have here, whether it's an open-end question or it's a chart here, so we're doing a lot of the top lining, we're doing a lot of the analysis, and this drops into your preferred kind of brand style. And the way in which we leverage AI here is at these two different levels. Now, Of course, AI, builds the structure, does the analysis, and writes everything. But there's also this kind of co-creation step here between your slides. And if, you just wanted to kind of edit one slide, whether you want to change some kind of formatting, or if you wanted to make kind of more of a sweeping change and say, I think you were a little too generic here. Can you be a little more specific on your top lines or on your executive summary? So those two ways are how we think about it. And I want to say extremely early. We've just kind of got this pipeline down here from your preferred template to an output of a presentation. Pretty good so far. Our internal team has kind of reported back roughly 40% time saving, and really just on kind of the building and the populating into PowerPoint in your brand template. It's a huge lift on a first version. So again, super proud of the early progress. So a lot of room to run here. You're going to see it in the workflow in Q1 of 2026 here. And directionally, I ended my crosstab demonstration there, just speaking to all of the useful applications we can do from there. And it's a very clear line of sight to not just make one here, but to also let's say you're a healthcare company and all of your presentations need that different subgroup analysis by line of business. You don't report any presentations out in aggregate. And it should be as simple as saying, hey, I have this subgroup here, build an entire presentation with that subgroup kind of analysis. Moreover, it should just be like 7. It's like, well, I have about 7 different subgroups. Can you just make 7? And it just like it kind of just keeps going. But again, it's this act of really reducing the friction to get this finished, polished product back to your stakeholder. And it really should just be this explosion of insights, that you should just have at the power of your fingertips, right? And so we dream, right? And so we continue to chase that vision we've been discussing here today, and we show here, and that's the entirety of the demo. Thank you all just for working through it with me.
And Ken, first of all, we're calling an audible, just so we know, because we're going to transition to the fireside chat here in just a moment. But we're calling an audible, and we have some questions because while we're here, this is great. First of all, this is awesome. Hopefully, everybody feels like what you've seen here is pretty pretty great. It's been a huge labor of, I was gonna say labor of love, but it's really just been a huge effort by both like our product and engineering teams to build out really cohesive workflow. And as Ken pointed out earlier, things like presentation design and all that, you can use independently. So you can bring data from many other places to be able to utilize that. But while we're kind of wrapping up the product component behind this, before we jump into this fireside chat, there were a couple product related questions that came in, and Ken, I figured you and I could probably answer those pretty quickly if that's cool.
Awesome.
You okay with questions? All right.
I'm okay.
Awesome. All right, so there's a question around adding stimuli to the survey builder. So we saw an AI generated survey, which is awesome. And the question is, can we add stimuli to the survey builder? Do you want to take it, or do you want me to take it?
Yeah, so stimuli probably in most surveys. On day one, we're gonna kind of just put a little placeholder for you and make it very easy. But directionally, yes, it needs to be multimodal, whether it's an image, a PDF, a link to anywhere externally. We want to make it as easy as possible to build your surveys, and that's definitely a component of it that we need to support in the short term.
Yeah. So short answer is yes, you can add, once you're in the survey designer, once the survey's been programmed, you can add stimuli right in there. And then the longer answer is, while it works well and you can do that, we want to continue to make everything we do easier. So yes, it works. It's pretty good, and we're going to make it awesome in the future. Is that a fair answer, Ken?
It is fair. Yeah.
All right, awesome. All right, and then do you mind flashing that whole survey response project dashboard back again? Because I think people saw that we have, fuel cycle surveys, and the question is, does the survey response or project dashboard only available if you use the native survey tool, so fuel cycle surveys, or for all surveys we launch in our communities? And the context is that we have a bunch of different product integrations within fuel cycle. So other survey providers can actually push data to and from fuel cycle. And so that's the context for people who don't know, in addition to our own native solution we have. So this dashboard right here, can people see data from other sources too?
Yeah. Yeah. We
Yep.
are we have great partnerships with different survey providers. So yes, this top part here is I am currently in a staging. We are getting ready to release this this week. So I'm kind of teleporting into the future here, but this is all, yeah.
Yeah.
Any survey tool is fair game for this and your data quality as well.
Yeah. So, and also all your analysis. So just for context, is right now the survey programming and like survey generation that works with our native solution. And then any reporting, any analysis, any of the data quality stuff, the things you see here, those work with external solutions as well that are integrated into our environment. So yeah, we have lots of thoughts around supporting survey programming across a variety of different platforms, and plan to do so. Not sharing timelines today, but we definitely know that everybody has choices, and we want to be able to integrate to bring in the best of AI, no matter what tools you're using as well. So first of all, thank you for answering the questions. It was a quick 2 questions. We're gonna flip over to, I think, the fireside chat now. And if you are just sitting in stunned silence because you can't believe what you've seen, and you come up with a question in 10 minutes or so, and you want to pop it in there, we'll revisit the Q&A later in the webinar here. So for that, I will step away and turn it over to Polly Sparrows.
I think you're muted, Polly.
Thank you. I was trying to be muted during Ken's demo. Thank you, Rick. Hello, everyone. Really, really glad to be here. Really glad that you are here. I think Ken, you are on with us. You're staying on, and I'll ask Amy Lindas to get on cam. That's great. So I am really, really pleased to be able to sort of facilitate or just participate in this conversation. Ken, I'm really glad this was kind of last minute. Amy Lindas and I were having a little prep conversation for our fireside chat today, and we were like, you know what? Let's get Ken, our senior product manager, on to talk about some of the issues that Amy and I surfaced in our prep chat. So Ken, glad that you were available and willing to kind of sit with us and talk. So what I'll do is first, Amy, if you could introduce yourself and just tell us who you are and how you know Fuel Cycle, and then we'll
Yeah,
have Ken. Sure.
thank you. My name's Amy Lindas. I am the Director of Research and Insights at Cars.com. I've been with Cars for 9.5 years now, but been in market research a lot longer than that. I've been using Fuel Cycle for going on 4 years now. So we've had a community the entire time, and I used 2 prior tools, but I'm very happy to have transitioned over to Fuel Cycle.
Thank you, Amy. Ken, we met you already on Unboxed, but could you also, what I'd like you to do in your introduction, can you talk about your transition from researcher to product designer?
Sure. Yeah. I'm incredibly fortunate to have started at Fuel Cycle, actually. And so I started as a research associate here, working with mostly our full service customers, and primarily with a healthcare focus, but a couple of different customers that I worked across different verticals. So for a number of years, I did that, and all the ways I really enjoyed the business side, of our company, and I really took to just really trying to just improve the state of affairs within the business, and so I think that overlapping kind of Venn diagram of interest in the business side of it, and also having a good understanding of how our customers and a personal user myself, just how those all kind of interlap is how I landed in the product position.
Thank you, Ken. And I'm Polly Sparrows. I'm the CRO here at Fuel Cycle, and my path to Fuel Cycle actually similar to Ken, only I went to the dark side in commercial right away. So I was interested in I started my career as a practitioner, and then at some point got kind of caught the commercial business side of market research bug, and that was my path to where I am today. But I am thrilled that we're going to be able to have a conversation here that the only kind of ground rules on this fireside chat is that we're going to be agnostic. We're not going to, like, you heard a lot now about the fuel cycle autonomous insights solutions that Ken shared with you, but that's really not what this chat is going to be about. It's really going to be about, the market researchers, the practitioners' experience now, today, when there is really so much transition. We're seeing new solutions come to our our utility. I would say almost weekly there's a new solution out there, and so this is really going to be a very candid and far more brand agnostic part of Unboxed today. So I'm going to just throw out our kind of first question, Amy, to you, just as a little bit of a teaser to what's to come in this conversation, which is, tell me, in terms of volume, speed, scope, without the hype, what's the one thing about AI in market research that has surprised you most this year?
I would think that the biggest surprise has been my shift in focus as a market researcher. So using AI has kind of been like having an assistant on the team. I have a second set of eyes that's looking at my work. And when you're that close to the data and just in the weeds every day, AI can be really useful in surfacing some of those insights that you may have missed. And so I used to live in the data, and now AI gets me most of the way there, and I can use that time to really craft my story and craft my presentation, my analysis. So it's shifted me from the analyst to more of a storyteller.
I love that. And so, and you talked about your own experience. How about your team? What's shifted for your team?
So my whole team is using AI in some capacity. I mean, not for everything. Nobody's hanging up their hats and saying, let's have AI automate everything. But it's been really valuable in terms of like multiplying what we can do. We're a really small team, and we support a lot of different departments in the organization. So being nimble is really important. Like I mentioned, AI has almost become this digital teammate that's allowed us to multiply our productivity, but it's not replacing us. Like the biggest challenge has really been more around setting expectations. I think once people see how fast AI can turn out insights, they want everything instantly. And so we really need to, define where speed helps and where critical thinking still matters.
You said something really interesting. You said that your stakeholders probably, right? Those folks that you're delivering research to, that they have these new expectations, and some of them probably are around speed, as you mentioned. But I'm curious about scope and volume. Where would you say AI helped you first? Like, speed, volume, scope. Would you say that, has this impacted you and your perceptions? Or did it have an equal impact on stakeholders and what they were expecting from you and your team?
I mean, the good news is we don't necessarily have to promote like an AI helped with this. So, while I would say like the biggest change has been in analyzing open ends and that qualitative feedback. I mean, that has really been a game changer. I'm not spending hours, even days on that part of it. And so I can have a nice, concise summary of those key themes and verbatims and things like that. Um, so that has definitely been the speed part of it. From a scope perspective, I've really leveraged AI almost to fill in some of the gaps where the survey data is just not cutting it. And so I would say that the breadth of what I'm presenting or my analysis has improved because of AI.
Yeah. So you mentioned kind of like a second set of eyes or digital teammate, maybe. I don't know if I think I'm inserting this second set of eyes, but you talked about AI as a digital teammate. Can can you give an example of how you might deploy this digital teammate? Just it could be a real life example, doesn't have to be a cars.com, but how would you deploy a digital teammate?
Well, I could think about a study that I did recently, and I was I segmented the results by generation. And looking at my Gen Z data, I just didn't have enough robust information there. I really wanted to understand how to capture the Gen Z audience's attention in terms of like what resonates with this generation and how to create engaging marketing. And I just didn't get that out of the survey data. So, I went to AI and I got some really good information about how this generation really craves authenticity. They're demanding more authentic experiences, and they're kind of turned off from mass marketing channels and traditional advertising. And so this was something that I could really leverage, and I could pass this off to dealerships to say, hey, when you have a Gen Z customer, take a video of a car, walk around the car, point out some really cool features, because that's what's going to engage that shopper. That's what's going to bring that shopper into your dealership. So that was a really cool nugget that I could take and pass along that I just wouldn't have gotten out of my survey data. But it still takes that human, that market researcher to identify that there's a gap and like, hey, I want to turn to AI to have this additional layer.
Wow. So let's unpack a lot of that. You said a lot, and it was all really relevant, I think, to the researcher's experience. Like the first thing you said was it almost like AI extended your adjacent lens. So I mean, Amy, you've been researching kind of the car buying customer journey for a long time. You know that, like, right? You live it day in, day out. But it sounds like you were using AI to be more extensible in like, okay, well, what's that car buying experience for Gen Z? What will they respond to? What might be for older adults? What do they respond to? And so when AI extended kind of your adjacent lens, what did AI give you, right? In terms of was that about speed? Was that about delivering faster? Or did that almost take your thinking, like it impacted your thinking, like it elevated, almost like a multiplier instead of replacing time?
Yeah, absolutely. And the vast majority of time, I am working within my wheelhouse and I am doing research on the consumer journey and all things automotive, which I do have a pretty extensive understanding of. But, for instance, recently we wanted to do a deep dive into the Hispanic market in terms of attitudinal and cultural messages that would resonate with this market. And I am not an expert in the Hispanic market. So it was really good to go to AI and help me frame some of the questions to design a better survey. So using Fuel Cycle Survey Designer for this was really great at helping me, step outside of my own lens and get that additional context and information. I mean, I wasn't outsourcing the thinking, but I was broadening my perspective, especially in territories that I just don't have much expertise. And AI can surface things that you just didn't think to ask. And so it's been really helpful for that, like having that gut check that helps me see past my own way of doing things, my own habits.
I love that. Okay, so what I think what you're saying, and I've experienced this a lot. So it's you've got your kind of your core research objective, your business objective. You want some extensibility in terms of thinking outside maybe specific segments of your audience, could even be seasonal, who knows, could be really anything, right? Here's where I sometimes get lost in the weeds. So I also consult various AI agents to really to expand my thinking, right? Sometimes I find myself as I go through the tertiary, ruminating and reprompting, I could end up kind of really a far field from where I started in terms of where, what answer I was trying to get, and then I have to go back to where I was. And this might be a good time to sort of bring up, like, how do you validate? How do you trust? And this is where Ken, I think, can offer a really interesting perspective. How do you trust that what you're getting from AI isn't like, that's not far afield from where you want to end up? How do you rein that in?
Yeah, so I'll talk about this in two phases. When I'm starting with AI, I am typically starting with Fuel Cycle's AI tools because they're designed for researchers, and I don't have to spend that time refining my prompts. I'm just answering a few questions about my audience, my objectives, and the tool basically generates the insights I need. And I can choose if I want a lengthy output, if I want like a very detailed analysis, or if I'm looking for just a few bullet points that I want to call out. So all of that thought into the structure of the output has basically been done. And I mean, that's usually the most time-consuming part of getting that. So I normally start there, but there are plenty of times, like when I gave the instance of Gen Z and understanding how to market to this audience, where, I have to step outside and go to something like ChatGPT or Gemini. And so I do double check the AI output. I'm lucky enough to have 10 years worth of survey data. So I have hundreds of surveys that I can tap into. We have access to industry reports. So I cross-reference my own data with industry reports. And I mean, I've been in the industry long enough to know if something really kind of sounds off. But, I tend to like ask myself a couple of questions like, does the data support, what AI is saying here? Does experience back it up? And then can I find a credible external data point? And then, I feel like the data is pretty valid.
Yeah, the validation factor. So, I mean, Ken, I think an appropriate time to throw something to you, which is, you often talk about the guardrails, or even once I heard you refer to them as like the bumpers in a bowling alley. It is true, McKinsey recently in the last few weeks just coined a term called work slop. And that work slop that AI can kick out, it can take a team far off of their intended, where they intended to go. And when I consult AI, I have to pare it down a lot. Researchers' time is precious. They really, we all know that they're expected, especially corporate researchers, expected to be in lots of meetings, expected to be, accessible to stakeholders. They don't have a lot of time to pare down work slop. Could you talk a little bit about guardrails? And, we know they matter, right? If you could talk a little bit about your position, your philosophy. You can bring Fuel Cycle's philosophy because I know, of course, I know it too. But in general, why are guardrails important for researchers using AI tools?
So it's a really important consideration. I mean, especially because simply the generic chat solutions are a little bit sycophantic. And so there's a lot of jokes, for like those who watch South Park or anything like that. There's a lot of jokes about how it'll keep kind of reinforcing, oh well, like I thought this, and you're like, oh, you're right. It's like, oh, what was I thinking? So a lot of those things can kind of steer you down a path that isn't like literally true. And I think Amy mentions really well in terms of like when we think about that, we want to kind of take out the guesswork. If you want it a little more precise or you want it a little more elaborate, we're going to just make sure that that's done for you. We're going to take the guesswork out of it because this kind of thing is, I don't know. I have a 7-week-old, so I kind of think of it through like being a new parent. That's like, yeah, well, I started feeding my daughter, and then like I forgot to change the diaper first, and like, oh, okay, I gotta, like you get like all of these sequencings to, ultimately, if you're using something generic, you can work your way towards it. But yeah, you're gonna spend a lot of time. You're gonna kind of hit a few dark corners that you didn't mean to hit, and ultimately, we just want to make it as tailored, to the outcome that you need at that point in time, as tailored as possible. So that's a lot of the guardrails. So if you're designing a survey and we don't support something, for example, we just released quotas in our platform, for example. We haven't integrated into our survey designer just yet. We're just going to let you know, like, no, sorry, we don't support that yet, but just keep you can set it up in this way after the fact. So a lot of those things to just take the guesswork out, and just to get you to that outcome faster. Yeah.
So you just talked about, for example, the maturity of where the agent is. They'll say, we don't support that yet. We'll support that. What about when you're actually typing in you're prompting something that is not related to your survey objective? What will a good agent do? What won't it do? What will a good agent refuse to do?
Yeah. Good agent will keep it real. They will tell you that it's off the course, right? And I think that's really what these generic apps are being designed not to do. They're being designed to reinforce, and that's a very important distinction, right? And so I think that also applies, from a search capacity as well. I think Amy mentioned, that particular use case as well. We have our own search capabilities, but we also just have a large blacklist, so like we know you can't use a lot of these sources in research settings. So when you use our search, we have an agent for search specifically. We're not going to let you use different sources. We're just not going to show them. So those are the kinds of examples that come to mind.
Yeah. One more question, because I think it's with regard to guardrails, and I think it's on everyone's mind because we've all probably encountered it. So how do you corral or bound hallucinations? You talked about goalposts. You talked a little bit about data provenance, where an agent can go, where it can't go. I guess we could call those scope limits. Talk a little bit about hallucinations and how you corral them in the design process.
Yeah, it's for our industry, it's the most important thing. You have to trust the data. So I spoke to that a little bit with the crosstab solution that we have. We do not let AI do math. Like that's just a plain and simple, because most hallucination occurs there. So for us, we really tailor our context windows to just like very thoughtfully put the math, whether you're doing some kind of subgroup analysis, some kind of generation subgroup analysis, as mentioned, we're gonna like really precisely place that into AI and have a lot of context on how it's structured and a lot of examples on how you can write, a proper analysis based off of that. So that's what it's all about, because again, yeah, the moment you have one or you find one, the whole thing goes out the window. So it's something for us that's just it's a non-negotiable.
And
Thanks, Ken. Go ahead. I was going to pitch it to you,
Yeah,
Amy, and ask you a question,
I,
but please comment.
I just wanted to chime in here because it's really important to understand like these AI tools, the Fuel Cycle's AI tools are clearly built by people who understand research. And that adds a lot of credibility for me. You know, when the engineers of this tech understand researchers, then the tech just fits better. It's not like tech for tech's sake. It's designed around how researchers actually think and work. So, you know, that just saves me a ton of time. You know, good AI should feel like it was designed by somebody who's done your job or has an understanding of your job. So, you know, I want to use AI tools that are designed for researchers because that's what's saving me the most amount of time in the long run.
So, Amy, that's such a great seg to a question that I'm going to ask because speed is really important to researchers. I think that one of the biggest challenges in corporate research is you get a question from a stakeholder, you want to get that answer and that insight back to them as soon as possible because the speed of business continues to accelerate. At Fuel Cycle, we get really frustrated because we always feel like we're not going fast enough. We're not going fast enough, you know, releasing new products that our customers need. We're always pushing ourselves to go faster and faster. And Ken, I'd like to know from a designer standpoint, I mentioned I'm on the commercial side, so I always want you to go faster, of course. But from a designer standpoint, you know, and I know you and Rick talk about this a lot, like how do you like where do you say, okay, you know what, we've got enough constraints on it? Like, can you talk about how you say, all right, we're going to release this. We feel like there's enough constraints. Do you err on the side of more constraints are better, or let this thing get out there and our customers will beta? And I'm just curious about the perspective. And it's a true question. I really don't know. It's not a plan. I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, Fuel Cycle, we have the luxury of having a world-class in-house research team. So, you know, they know me well because, you know, we do thorough testing internally before anything goes out. We have a channel of researchers who love, you know, to do research and use AI to do research specifically. So it's really you know, of course there's an intuition to it, but you know, having that kind of, you know, we call dog fooding, you know, having that kind of channel, you know, to really test something before it gets, you know, released, that is supremely valuable. It's really what makes the difference in everything we
That's
do.
a really great point because our researchers are going to try and break it before it gets to Amy or anyone else on this chat. Is that fair? Is that fair to say?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so that really interesting there. But Amy, I just, you know, because I think it's probably it may be a curiosity that some of our other corporate researchers who may be on the webinar have. And, you know, have you experienced any workflow changes because of AI, whether that be kind of design, open-end synthesis, you know, even stakeholder readouts? Has anything changed in the last, call it 24 months because of AI?
I would say yes. I mean, it's kind of hard, definitely like open-end analysis, but more so, and you know, I mentioned this earlier. I think it's made my processes, my analyses more robust. I have a source that I can tap into if I need guidance on developing a survey or a discussion guide or on the analysis side of things. So, you know, like I mentioned, I'm accustomed to spending hours and hours in the data looking for those nuggets of gold. And now I can spend less of my time, you know, in the weeds, in the data, analyzing, and I can spend more of my time crafting the story, ensuring that I'm providing actionable insights to my stakeholders. And so I tend to see myself a little bit more as the conduit between AI and my company because AI doesn't have the intimate knowledge of how my company functions on a daily basis or how different teams prefer to digest data or insights. So I almost need to be that translator to ensure that I'm delivering the teams the insights that they need in a way that's most useful and impactful for them.
And I think important in your business, because none of your agents have been studying the customer path to car purchase like
Right.
you have for 10 years. If you could talk to that, I mean, that experience that I think that's important for a researcher to share that. It's where does your perspective, where does your perspective start and end, and AI then also augments? I'm curious because you must have a position on it. I have a position on it. I'll share it after you share yours.
I mean, for me, it's more about filling in the gaps. Like I will do the majority of the work, but I can also now spend time thinking, so the vast majority of my work is ad hoc custom research projects. I'm probably 90%, 10% doing like tracking studies. So every project is different. And a lot of times, obviously I'm sorry, hindsight is 2020.
Yeah.
And so, you think, oh, I wish I would have asked this question differently, or I wish I would have included more around this. And so that's where I can leverage AI to be like, is there something I can fill the gap with here that AI can generate for me or help explain, help contextualize this. So I think I'm really just more so enhancing what I'm providing stakeholders by ensuring that I have like that multidimensional kind of view. And so I'm not necessarily reaching out to AI to do my job for me, but to help me do my job better.
Yeah. You said it so well. I went through a similar process where and I think most of us did. Anybody in market research, and like there's a lot of our business that is kind of iterative and tactical, right? And so I don't know, maybe 12 months ago or so, I had this existential moment where I was like, gosh, like what's the future of our industry look like? And that was back when everybody was kind of putting AI on everything like a ketchup squeeze, right? Like, let's get some AI on it, it'll make our product look better. And I tried it all, like I really dove deep. And then I came, finally, in the last, I'd say 9 months, I came to the conclusion AI is going to multiply me. So all the experience, the know-how, the confidence in the work that I'm doing, for example, or anyone else, it's going to multiply me. It's going to just make me not only, faster, but I can literally now 10x myself. And that's very exciting. And I hope that researchers are coming to that conclusion. What would I do if I had 10 more on me? I'd do a lot. I don't know if if you have a thought on that, because you've been immersed in AI for the last 36 months almost exclusively.
Yeah. It's it's there's something special to it. I think everybody is going to be able to really gain a lot of leverage. And, ultimately, I think it's just getting started. So, really just if we're kind of on the edge today and really kind of feeling it, I think, it really positions our industry really well, because ultimately I think the customer centricity that we have can be leveraged in many different departments. And as, adjacent departments, get their own agents and get their own capabilities, I really think that, the one who understands the customer wins in the long term every time. And so, yeah, I really think there's something special to kind of the force multiplier that's been happening and will continue to do so.
Yeah. Amy, response to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I think about like the impact AI has had on our work, I think the first thing that comes to mind is I'm definitely not as restricted about using open-ended questions in my surveys or leveraging a qual component where I used to kind of be like, let's limit it to 2 open ends because I knew that would be me analyzing open ends for hours and hours. And so I know I can quickly get that summary from AI. So at the end of the day, AI really should enable you to do your job better. Whether that's enabling you to produce more or take your analyses to the next level. And for me, I think it's made me a stronger market researcher because it's given me more time to focus on that aspect of translating the data, interpreting this, and then connecting insights to real business impact. And so again, I think as market researchers, we become a little less of analysts and more curators and storytellers of AI-driven insights.
Yeah, orchestrators. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love it. That's great. Thank you. I'm gonna throw one more question out, and then we're gonna pitch it over to Rick Kelly. So there's a lot of corporate researchers on the call today, and we all probably have some ideas about how we're using AI, but I'm going to ask you each if there's one, because both of you are immersed in AI use, and if there's one thing that you could get if I'm a corporate researcher, I run a team, if there's one thing I could get my team to do now to really take advantage of some of the exponential utility of AI and AI tools, what would it be? Ken, I'll start with you, and then Amy will finish up with you.
Ooh.
I can go first if you want.
Okay. Why don't you go first, Amy?
Jump
Sure.
around.
Okay. I have to go back to open ends again. I mean, if you're not using, like, I use Fuel Cycle's Qual Analyst, but if you're not using AI to help, I realize that, a lot of times you need to quantify things. I can do that in Fuel Cycle, but it's also a gut check. I can think of, I did a study for an automotive manufacturer who I won't name. And there was a question asking, why wouldn't you consider, this brand? And there was a theme that came up so often, and I couldn't, and it's worded different ways. And so in my manual analysis, I didn't catch this theme. And so having AI like catch that for me was huge. Um, and it was CVT transmissions. So if anybody knows anything about automotive, they might know who that manufacturer is, but that was like something that I missed in my data.
That's interesting. So it actually surfaced something that you might have not caught.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you. Ken, you got something for us? What's one thing that
Yeah. I'm definitely partial as like I have to use it in so many different directions. I think from a research perspective, it's definitely still, going through this stage of really trusting and understanding that tailor-made solutions are superior to just generic ones. And so I would even just say, go to ChatGPT and try to make a presentation and see, and then go to Fuel Cycle. And like, you'll see that, in doing those kinds of exercises, I think, will really kind of move the window of acceptance and realization to say, the generic app is probably all that will ever be. And to really start to kind of lean into somebody who's doing it for a specific use case. I'd say that would be my advice. Is really, really try to scrutinize the different, applications of people who are making it, and see what you find. And let us know.
Yeah. Well, I think if we were to say, okay, what are the things that came up, right? The key takeaways, if you will. So we talked a lot about AI as a multiplier, right? You can really get more work done, volume, speed. But we also talked about the quality aspect where you might be able to identify something that you might have missed on a manual process. We talked that not a replacement, it's a multiplier. That validation is non-negotiable. And Amy mentioned got a bunch of sources, and Amy, you're probably one of those folks like, look, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't see the future, but I know our customers, I know their purchase habits, and that is what I bring to the AI kick out. I have validation because of my experience. And then guardrails. We talked a lot about guardrails, and they beat prompt acrobatics that sometimes you have to use in a generic tool. I know I'm doing prompt acrobatics all the time to try and get to what I need, where a purpose-built tool is going to, really get you very, very focused on your business objective and your business question. And then, finally, I think that stakes are high for all of us. Market researchers adding value to their companies, understanding the contribution that market research corporate practitioners have to their business is, I think, identifying how you can bring that experience and bring that orchestration expertise in research that you bring with experience and know-how, at leveraging agents that are purpose-built to arrive at a data outcome faster, more quality, higher quality, a more elevated and nuanced understanding. So that's fair. Did I miss any important key takeaways? Something that I didn't bring up? No? Right. Well,
great.
Ken, Riley, my colleague, thank you so much. Thanks for your work on all of our agents, and thanks for being here today for our conversation. Amy Lindas, thank you very much for your candor. It's always a pleasure and delight to talk with you, Amy. I love how excited you are about the work that researchers do. It's everything makes sense when you talk to a researcher. Us in the you know what I mean? In the industry, sometimes you
For sure.
get caught in your own development, and that we're developing products at Fuel Cycle. We're always looking for the commercial aspects, but everything falls into place and makes sense. And we remember, why we do what we do when you talk to a corporate researcher like you. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. I'm going to kick this
Thanks for
over
having me.
to, thanks. I'm going to kick this over, Rick, to you, where you're going to take us, I think, through some materials. And thanks, everyone. Really been fun.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Ken, Polly, and Amy. We're going to try and do this in 6 minutes. We can do a long extended version. We can probably talk for like 10 hours about all this, but we're going to try and keep it relatively concise, just to give you like a vision of where we're going, but also a very tactical view of what's happening in the next couple months here. But before we do that, actually go ahead and jump to the next slide while I'm talking here. Amy, I love something you said was that, products that are built by researchers. And one of the things that we initially identified as like a potential source of advantage, or, things that we thought were really important, is really understanding the customer jobs to be done, right? And we knew that if we understood the jobs to be done, we'd be able to work backward from that and to build solutions that people could trust, have confidence in, and be able to rely on for the researcher or for the research. So I appreciate you calling that out. Everything that you see, one of our kind of core principles, the way that we think about developing AI products, is that trust and confidence is among the most important things that we do. And so what we're aiming for in everything we do, whether it's survey generation, survey design, or it is the crosstab analysis. You heard Ken mention multiple times, the AI doesn't do math. There's really good reasons for that, is because what we're aiming for is repeatability, reliability, and observability. So repeatability, we should get the same result every time, whether it's a seasoned researcher doing it, or it's an intern doing it, or don't tell anyone, but it's a CMO doing it. We want the results to be repeatable. Of course, we want reliability, so accuracy, the whole thing where we have anti-hallucination frameworks in place to help us deliver reliable results that allow us to have confidence in the things that AI is doing. And observability means that we understand what's actually happening under the hood and can explain how an AI got to the result. So no random generations, no hallucinations. We have source logic, citations, those types of things show up in the application. So everything we're doing is repeatable, reliable, and observable. And that's how we end up building trust and accuracy at the core of what we're doing here too. So let's jump real quick to kind of a high-level slide. This is what we see as like the future of insights. You've seen a lot of the AI capabilities today. We know where they're at. We have an idea of where they're going to be in 6 months and a year from now. But I want to start painting a vision for what we're building as a cohesive platform that serves as really like an insights operating system that not only executes research and helps you move things faster, but it surfaces signals, so things that affect your business or affect opportunities for research. It turns those things into autonomous insights, so work that flows with minimal human intervention, everything from research design all the way down through analysis, and then finally repository concept, where you can learn continuously from the accumulation of data that you're gathering from your insights data. And together, these constitute what the fuel cycle AI solution is becoming, where you learn from the market, you can execute research, then also learn continuously and have every project, whether it comes from fuel cycle or somewhere else, feed into your organization's accumulated knowledge, right? And so the outcomes are we find out more opportunities for research, we can compress time, cost, effort to conduct research, but also we're learning more over time as well. And so you've seen what's available today, and I'll show you kind of the tactical things that we're doing to get from here to there on the next slide. So these are things that are coming in the next couple months here. And again, we're kind of breezing through this. We're always happy to do deep dives or talk through this in general. Number one is the continued maturation of individual agents. So you've seen a lot of individual agentic capabilities. We're both adding new agents to the platform, but also maturing them. Once we get into real world testing, Ken mentioned we do a lot of testing internally, but also once they're out in the real world, we want to mature them, to grow them, to find new use cases, and to listen to feedback from our customers and users to enable us to continue to advance the individual capabilities as well. One big thing I'm going to call out on the maturation of individual agents is there's this concept in AI product development called evaluation scores or evals. And what they do is they measure the performance of an individual agent against the expected outcome. We have been testing and refining. We have internal scorecards on our internal evaluation scores on individual agents. We are planning to publish those and make those available to our users for both transparency and confidence, so that you know the volume of testing and what the testing has looked like to get us to an agentic capability, something that Polly and Amy mentioned earlier. So that's going to be a big thing that we're going to be starting to do here in the very near future, is provide a lot of transparency and confidence in the testing that we've done, so that you can utilize the agents with all that confidence as well. Other big things here are going to be around expansion of the survey programming agent. Ken called that out earlier in the presentation. The big kind of continued things, so big items that you're going to see start to seep into the entire product, is the concepts around repository, being able to chat with your data, take your accumulated knowledge and ask questions like, based on the last 5 concept screens we ran, what are some potential winning concepts? Or what are the attributes of concepts that underperform our action standards, and how can we improve them, right? And so we're going to be able to start to take all that information that we have and be able to start surfacing those. We have some prototype functionality that we're refining and looking forward to introducing that late Q4, perhaps early Q1, but making good progress there. The other big concept that both I think Ken touched on, especially, was this concept of enterprise personalized AI, where AI doesn't just provide you cookie cutter templates, cookie cutter methodologies, cookie cutter approaches, but we know that every industry is different, and every brand and organization within an industry is different. So just because you're big box retailer A doesn't mean you have the same business strategy or objectives as big box retailer B. And so what AI enables us to do is to start to tailor the research process and the results and the analysis to big box retailer A and to big box retailer B, without having to force you into cookie cutter templates that live in static dashboards, right? So that's going to be a big concept that you're going to see starting to be infused throughout the product, throughout the platform over the next couple months here too. And another big thing, and we didn't even touch on much of this today, is that we have an incredible AI-powered user research platform. Video, both unmoderated, moderated, think translations, summarization, reporting and analysis. We have that available today as well. We are starting to test things like AI moderators, where we have live AI moderators to conduct virtual IDIs for both UX and market research use cases. I can tell you, I I sat through a product walkthrough a couple weeks ago, and think like UX research use cases where an AI moderator can see a respondent's screen, ask them questions about their feedback on prototypes or functionality or walkthrough. It's pretty incredible. And so we're not putting a date on that, but we are saying that we're going to be starting to test this really soon. If you're interested in testing and giving feedback, we'd love to have your input as we go ahead and build out that capability. So again, starting with the vision of what we're building, it's the cohesive platform for signals, autonomous insights. It's executed independently with human in the loop, as well as a repository. Together, that gets you an operating system for insights that helps you identify changes in the market. It helps you conduct research at a speed and scale that you've never been able to do before. And then finally, we're able to help you learn from all your data, learn from all your insights and be able to start pushing things into the business faster with more oversight on strategy and execution than ever before as well. So I think with that, Victoria, we're wrapping up here. And unless there's any particular questions in the Q&A, I can go ahead and check. Actually, I think one question we have here, Amy, if you don't mind, can I give you this last question before we adjourn?
Sure.
Awesome. So this was from Julianne. Julianne, hopefully I'm saying that right. How do newer researchers maintain intuition if they haven't been in the workforce for 10 plus years before AI was around? AI tools can be amazing, but how do we maintain that intuition and more junior researchers on your team as well? And before we move on, Julianne, I'll tell you that if I was a girl, my mom was going to name me Julianne. And so nice to meet you. But Amy, question over to you.
Yeah, so yeah, I did mention that I've been in my role for 10 years and market research a lot longer than that. But I think that it's important to, if you're questioning your AI output or you want to validate what you're seeing, asking yourself first, does this data make sense? Like, does what I'm seeing in the survey correspond with what AI is telling me? And then looking for any like external data point to kind of validate that. So, anything you might have internally or just using a valid source to validate the data. I mean, when I came across the stat about Gen Z preferring authentic experiences and more objective to traditional forms of advertising, I could find plenty of data to back that up. So I think it's just a matter of like fact checking and doing your homework to make sure that what you're seeing is valid.
Oh, I think it's a great question. And then also, like from a design principle, is that we always believe that researchers should have access to their underlying data, right? So there's no black boxes. You should be able to validate the responses that you're getting back. And again, that anti-hallucination framework that we put in place is really, really, really important because it allows for us to actually have confidence and trust in that data. So yeah. Thank you, Amy, for coming back on. And that was a great question. By the way, if you have additional follow-up questions, feel free to shoot them over to us. We'd be more than happy to answer. Actually, I know Victoria specifically would like to answer all your questions. So Victoria, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. This was a fabulous session. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, maybe you're a little too shy to ask in the chat, feel free to shoot them over to marketing@fuelcycle.com and I will route them to the right person to answer those. But again, thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. And yeah, that's a wrap. Thanks. Bye.